Okay, I think we are just about ready to get started. Just about 11 o'clock now. So first of all, my name is Chris Schaefer. I'm with the Moorick Model Schools team. Thank you all for taking some time to join us for the webinar today. Today we're going to be talking about Google Meet for about the next half hour or so. I do think Google Meet is a tool that a lot of teachers might find useful as they look to communicate with students in a more digital means. So let me go ahead and switch over to, I have a little presentation I'm going to play in the beginning, and then we'll kind of do a live dive into the tool itself. So again, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, use the chat. I know Brittany from my team is in the chat and she's happy to answer any questions. And I will try and just peek at the chat once in a while and see if there's anything that I can answer as well. So let's talk, whoops, sorry about that. Let's talk about Google Meet. First of all, what is Google Meet? Google Meet is a video conferencing tool that not only allows you to meet via video call, like a FaceTime call if you're an iPhone user, but it also allows you to, as you see in the screenshot here, you can actually share some documents back and forth, and you can even include not just video calls, but you can also allow for someone to call in on a phone line as well. So this allows you to present virtually. So if you are in a case where students are not able to be in the classroom, you could use Google Meet as an instructional method similar to like a virtual lecture where you're able to present information and maybe even teach new topics without students actually being in school. To get to Google Meet, you can just type in the website meet.google.com, or you can use the Google App Launcher. Some people like to call that the waffle in the top right corner once you're logged into any Google tool. Let me go back here. Just going to switch screens here. So when I'm logged into a Google tool, you have your App Launcher or waffle in the top corner here. So if I click on that, you can see that I have access to Google Meet. It's right here in my tools, along with all of my other familiar tools like Classroom, Docs, Calendar. Meet is one of the options there. Another way to access Google Meet is once someone's invited you to a Google Meet session, that Meet actually creates itself as a calendar invitation in your Google Calendar. So you can also launch out to Google Calendar and just click right on the event, and within the event you'll see a link that goes right into the Google Meet session. And if you're working with students using Google Meet, a way that you could actually get them into a Meet session is by posting the Meet URL right into Classroom. So if you're using Google Classroom, you take the Meet URL, pop it right into Classroom as an announcement or even an assignment, and say, please join me for this Meet, and then they can click right in Classroom to join you from there. One thing to consider if you do want to use Google Meet is this does have to be enabled by the Google administrator for your district. So if you have never used it before and you're not sure if it's enabled, if you've tried to click on your app launcher in the top corner and Google Meet is not there, that might be turned off in your district. So reach out to your Google administrator, and that's a feature that they'll have to turn on for you. We do have a video. This is an embedded video in the presentation. If you have a tech coordinator or a Google administrator who wants to know how to open up Google Meet for users within your district, within our YouTube channel, we have this video that I just created, a quick screencast video that walks them through the steps of turning on Google Meet and where they need to go within the Google admin panel to enable those. Another thing to consider with Google Meet is it is a fully online tool. Unlike some of the other Google tools, there's not actually an offline mode to Google Meet because it's a live call, so you do have to have internet access. That said, it doesn't have to be like an Ethernet access at home. You can use Wi-Fi Or if you just have a cell phone, you can install the Google Meet app on your phone, and you can join Meet sessions through cell connection as well. This one is a consideration that I talked about. We did a session on Google Meet last week. This is actually something that Google has already rolled out a solution for. So this is no longer really a consideration as long as you're rolling out the meetings. As a teacher, you're able to turn these meetings off after the fact. But if you're in a Google Meet session with students, if you leave before the students have left the room technically stays active until that last student leaves. So just as a kind of digital classroom management best practice, make sure you're the last person to exit a meet, or otherwise the students can stay in, they can use the chat and discuss things back and forth with each other. So just a heads up there. Some quick features for Google Meet. Obviously, I talked about there's an audio and video connections. You can use it across multiple devices. So within the same Meet, someone can be on a phone, someone can be on a tablet, a Chromebook, a laptop, a desktop. Doesn't matter what device you're on as long as you're able to join that Meet and you have a webcam and a microphone, or you can call in via phone and access the audio that way. You can also present your screen. So similar to kind of what I'm doing here with you guys, I'm showing my screen through a streaming service. Google Meet has that built in as well, and I'll kind of show you that in a minute. They are rolling out a few premium features for schools through the end of this school year to try and accommodate so many more students trying to access instruction from home with the current crisis we're facing. So one thing they've done is they've expanded the participant limit for a Google Meet from 100, which is where it normally is, up to 250. They now allow you to record a Google Meet session. So while you're in that session trying to teach your students a new topic, you can actually record it. And that recording is saved right into your Google Drive. So you could then post that into Classroom after the fact as an archived lesson that they can revisit. And that's nice because then they can pause it, rewind it, and make sure they get the instruction that they need. And then finally, not so much for a teaching tool, but more a district communication tool. They do allow for live streaming of events through Google Meet. The only hiccup to that is it's not a public live stream per se. It's a live stream that is a clickable link that someone then is not able to participate in the back and forth of the conversation, but they're able to see what's going on. The only catch to this is they have to have a Google account that is within your district Google domain. So for us, it would have to be a mork.org Google user. And so that's kind of one thing that I just wanted to clarify for you. Again, these three features are only available until the end of this year in the free version. But if you do have any questions about any of these features, or what they're going to revert to at the end of the year, feel free to reach out and we can answer that for you. So how do I actually create a Google Meet? One way is right through Google Calendar. So you'll see here I have a screenshot of a Google Calendar event that I've created. And within this screenshot, I'm just creating a regular Google Calendar event with a title, a time, a date, and then one of the options kind of in the center of the screen is this little webcam, and then I can hit this drop down to create a Google Meet. And what that does is it creates this unique code at the end of the URL, the FRQ-BYSU-IKZ. That's going to be unique for every Google Meet. So when students get this calendar event, if I'm inviting them as a guest, this link will be included in the calendar event. Or if I hit the drop down on the right side, it actually lets me copy this link. And again, I could take that and just post it right into my Google Classroom and then they can click right on that through Classroom to get to the Google Meet session. One thing really quickly is if your students do have email access with their Google account, it will send them an invitation in their Gmail as well. So you'll see on the left-hand side, when I added a guest, so if you enter your students as guests to the event, it will send them an email, and it will just verify that you really want to send that. And if you do try and invite anybody from outside of your domain, like I invited someone from my moricmsp.org, not moric.org, it just reminds you that you're inviting someone from outside of the organization. So let's go out to Google Meet really quickly. So I'm going to switch windows here. So let's go to meet.google.com. I'm going to make this full screen again. So the Google Meet homepage is very basic. You have really just a couple of options. You can either join a meeting, or if I had a calendar event created where I had something scheduled for today that had a Google Meet tied to it, it would list right beneath here, and it would give me the details for when that's going to start, and I could click right on it to join that meeting from here. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on Join or Start a Meeting, and it asks you to either enter the meeting code, which is that funny list of characters at the end of the link, or if I'm just creating a meet right now, I can just give it a nickname. So I can call this my Google Meet Training Demo. When you start creating the meet, it pops up your webcam so you can ensure that your webcam's working. It also lets you check your audio to make sure your audio connection is good. In my case, I'm using the webcam on my laptop, and I have a microphone built into my headphones. I've already used them with Meets before, so I know they're working, but you can go ahead and check them here. Or you can join and use the phone for audio like it says here. I can click Join Now if I want to join. If I want to join this meeting muted, I can go ahead and click on the microphone, and now it mutes me within the Meet. And now I can join. And so this is the window you'll see once the Meet is actually up and running. You'll see that it gives you all of the joining information. I can add people manually here. So I could go in and I could say, I want to invite Brittany. Since I know she's watching this, I'm going to invite her. I can also click in the bottom left-hand corner at any time during the Meet session to open that window again. So now in the bottom left, I get all of that information. One nice thing is they do give you this copy meeting, the join info. So if I just click here, it copies all the information someone would need to join me in this session, and I could then go and post that somewhere. So I could put this in my Google Classroom, I could email it to somebody, send it over instant message, and it would give them all the information they need to go ahead and join this Meet session. You'll notice down here too in this pop-up window there's an attachments section. I'll kind of go over that in a second, but this is only going to include documents as an attachment if you've attached them to a Google Calendar invitation for this Meet. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Along the bottom you have options to mute your microphone, to turn off your camera if you would like, or to go ahead and disconnect or leave the call. Now you can see Brittany is joined. I do have the option, this is pretty interesting, they have a captioning service built in as well. So if I enable my microphone, I can turn on captions, and now it should capture anything I'm saying into the bottom of the screen. Sometimes it takes it a second to kick in. But for any students that have any hearing disabilities, this would actually caption along the bottom of the screen. So now you can see it there. So when I hold my mouse still, it should bring the captions back up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my captions back off. I can present now. So if I wanted to actually present my screen, I can either choose a single window on my computer. So if I have, my email up, my Chrome browser up, here you can see I can also share my entire screen. So here it would be able to share my entire desktop, which in this case probably isn't a good idea because I'm working on actually multiple displays. So it would get very confusing for you guys if I did that. Finally, on the left, there's the more options. Here I can change the layout of how the screen is laid out. Again, I can turn on captions. I can use a phone to call in. All of these options. And again, I've enabled in our domain recording, so I could actually record this meeting. It asks you to ask consent for all of the people participating, but now it starts recording this session, so it records it, and then when we finish the recording, all of these recordings go right into your Google Drive. It automatically generates a folder for you called Google Meet, and it puts the recordings right in there, and they're all dated and time stamped for you so you know when that's from. So now I'm going to go ahead and leave this call. And I'm going to return to home screen. You'll notice the home screen background does change, so that's nothing I have control over. It's just Google builds that into the background. They're just kind of stock images that rotate, so don't worry if that keeps changing on you. That's normal. It's just how the system is built. Now I do want to jump over. Let me get out of full screen mode here. I want to go over to Google Calendar. Make this full screen again. If I do go to Google Calendar here, I can create an event just by double clicking on a date. I'm just going to call this test event. It's going to be for today. I'm going to start this at, I'll say 11 a.m. And this is the option where you can add a Google Meet session to a calendar event. So if I hit this drop down now, it gives me the option for Hangouts Meet, which is Google Meet. And if I click on that, it automatically creates, again, that unique URL for our Meet with that unique code. And if I do hit this drop down, it gives me all of the joining info here. So I can copy this and I can then put that into Classroom again. I can put it in an email, send it in a message, and then people can join my unique Google Meet. Over on the side here, if I do add a guest, I'm going to type in Derek here. It will automatically invite them on their Google Calendar, so I don't have to copy this meeting information. It'll automatically include it into their Google Calendar and they can join me that way. Down here at the bottom, you'll see there's a description, so I could type something in here. Very informative. This is my description. And you'll notice in the top of this box, there's the little attach paperclip. So this is where if I attach any documents to this calendar event, this is where they'll show up in that menu that popped up in the bottom left corner of our Google Meet session as attachments. So for example, I could attach today's presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and save this event, and I can send or don't send my invitations, so I'm going to not send. Now if I go back to my Google Meet window, you'll notice here that I now have my join or start a meeting option, so I can ad hoc create a meeting. Or now from Google Calendar, it's recognizing I have a Google Calendar event that has a Google Meet tied to it, and now I can go ahead and just click on this and I can join that Google Meet session right from here without having to type in that code for the meeting or anything. So I can just click on Test Event. I'm going to mute my camera and my microphone, and I'm going to click Join Now. And now you'll see I'm right into the Meet just like that. I didn't have to type in any of that code or copy it and put it in a classroom or anything like that. I just went ahead and clicked on it and joined the Meet. So that's really the two main ways that you're going to be joining Meet sessions, either by creating an ad hoc meeting or by creating a Google Calendar event that will then populate right into the window here. So I'm going to jump back to, where'd it go here? Try and find where I put my presentation. Sorry for jumping windows like this. I just want to get back into the presentation and talk about some ideas for when we might actually use Google Meet as educators. So what about some ideas for the classroom specifically? Obviously, I talked about how you can use this as a virtual teaching tool. You could actually invite students in, teach them new content. As the Meet is going, if you're sharing your screen, you can open up any program that you want on your computer, and it will share the screencast of that out to anybody that's joined the Meet. So then you could actually teach them using any of the normal tools that you have on your computer at any time throughout the year. Another idea is right now with so many students working at home and parents trying to help them. I know I'm trying to help my kids with some of their homework right now and the packets that were sent home. If I'm struggling as a parent, it would be nice if the teachers could hold a virtual office hour. So they could schedule specific times when they'll be available within Google Meet, and either parents or even students could join and ask questions where maybe they're struggling on a specific topic or with a specific worksheet. They can get that remote help using the Meet platform. It would also be a great way when we're back into the classroom, or even now remotely, you could set up a Google Meet where you're bringing in virtual field trips or guest speakers. So you could bring in, for example, a scientist to talk about how infection spreads and give students kind of that more personalized instruction on how that actually works. This would be great for, if you had a field trip scheduled to go to somewhere physically this year, and now maybe that's not going to happen, you could actually, in many cases, set up a virtual field trip where instead of going there in person, they're going to walk you through things on a camera, and you can virtually see everything you would have in person. Another way I've seen Meet used in the classroom is as like a virtual book club or topic study. So if you had a book club set up that was meeting in person, now you could actually meet virtually over the Google Meet, and people can take turns talking using their microphone. They could present slides that they've made if they had that, and now all that can be done virtually. The Mystery Meet is not a new concept, but Meet is a new vehicle to kind of do this. You could actually connect with another classroom, have your students prepare some research ahead of time about where you live and some of the important landmarks and customs and culture of your region, and then you could share that with the remote classroom, and then they could have a chance to guess where you live, and then you could swap and do that in reverse. It's a nice activity for students to learn about their local area, or you could set this up so instead of talking about your local area, you're talking about an ancient culture or a remote destination that maybe you're studying. This also works great as a small group project meeting tool. So, students can always meet in Google Docs and in Google Slides and work collaboratively, but that doesn't really give them the chance to talk things out verbally or over video, whereas this Meet platform could give them that tool. And you as a teacher could be in that meeting session and help guide the discussion about where they're going with that project. You could always, of course, use this with your colleagues. If you're involved in any, professional learning networks, you could meet with them now remotely using the Meet tool. And all of the tools that I showed you within the Meet session are available for you to use, not just with students, but with anybody. So you could, of course, use those with your colleagues as well. So before I kind of cut this off, this presentation is linked within the description of today's YouTube video down below. And so these are actually live links that go out to a couple of tools that you may want to visit after the fact. The first one being Google has a team called EDU in 90. They release occasionally videos, I think it's about once a week, about 90 seconds long, a tutorial about specific tools and ways that you can use them in education. So I've linked to the Hangouts Meet specific video here, but I would recommend checking out their entire channel. They have a great set of hosts for the videos, and they're very well done. And like I said, they're about 90 seconds usually, so it's a really quick video that might just give you some new ideas on how to go ahead and use those tools in your classroom. There's also a link here to the G Suite Learning Center specific to Hangouts Meet. Again, this is a great set of tools that you can use for other tools within the Google Suite as well. Don't feel like you can have to focus on Hangouts Meet specifically. You could use this for any of the Google tools. They have resources there. This is also where you would go to get certified if you want to become a level 1 or level 2 educator within the Google ecosystem. And you've already visited our YouTube channel to get here, so you know how to get there. Oops, I didn't update those. Here we have my contact information. If you need to reach out to me after the fact, feel free. But what I'm going to do now before I kind of end the session today is I'm going to jump over and just check the chat and see if anybody's entered any questions that maybe need answering. Or if you've thought of anything in the last few minutes that you need answered, go ahead and enter those in the chat, and I will hang out and answer those for you as I am able to. Don't forget, we have a host of other webinars coming up over the next few days. If you visit the mohric.org/pd, that will take you out to our calendar. We have a couple of different topics coming up over the next couple days. This afternoon, I think we're doing rubrics and grading in Google Classroom, so that's at 2 o'clock today. But we have other sessions for tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week as well. So I will check the chat and see if there's any questions. Okay, one of the questions is about students having access to set up Google Meets. So luckily, Google did think this process out pretty well, and they thought about this from the teacher's perspective and the school's perspective. And it is a restriction that can be set in the Google admin panel, that you can restrict certain groups of users within the organization to not be able to create the Google Meet sessions. So in our video that I showed you earlier in the presentation, one of the settings is to go ahead and limit that so only your instructional staff and maybe your administrators can create those meetings. But of course, we don't want students to be able to do that. So that is a restriction that can be enabled. Yes, so I see Derek asking me to go through presenting again. So I'm assuming that's within the Meet session itself. So let me jump back over to Google Meet and jump into a Meet here. So here is a Google Meet session that is live. Of course, you have the ability to turn on and off your webcam and your mic so you can discuss things with that remote site. But you also have down in the bottom right-hand corner the Present Now button. So if I click on that, you get the option to either present just one window that you have open on your computer. So here I have on my computer a Chrome window. On my other display, I have the window where I'm streaming this event out from, and these a couple of other things open. So I could just pick one of those windows and stream that, or I could say I want to stream my entire screen. So if I choose that option, it's going to give me the option of which of my screens, because I have more than one hooked up, I want to stream out. So I'll choose screen 2 for this example, and I'll click share. And now my screen is going out to everybody else that would be connected into this Meet session. So now I could pull up, let's say I'm talking about a lesson I had built in Smart Notebook. I can open up Smart. I can go through that interactive lesson, teach as if I had people in the room with me, and then when I'm done, I can click Stop Presenting, and now nobody on the other end will see what's going on my screen anymore. They'll just see the video tiles of everybody discussing on the main screen. So I hope that answers the question about presenting. If you do decide to do a specific window instead of the entire screen, if I click on window here, this is where it lets you decide which window you would like to use. So I'm going to use this Meet window that I have open. So now just this browser window with the Meet session will stream out to everybody else that's connected to my Meet, not my entire desktop. I recommend using the individual window if you have a lot of other things open, or if you have like School Tool open in another window and you want to make sure that that information doesn't get streamed out. I would definitely recommend choosing a specific window instead of streaming your entire desktop. Go ahead and close this out. Sure, let me do, if you want to join in a Meet, let me create one right now. And I will copy the info into the chat. Hopefully it comes through in a way that makes sense. So if you click on the meet.google.com/funny code, that's going to join you into this Google Meet session that I just created. And if I do see the question about presenting my screen. If I'm presenting my screen and people in the Meet can also see me, so over on the right hand side usually it just puts smaller tiles of every video source. If I switch my stream here, you'll see over on the right hand side I still have small tiles of everybody's video that's being broadcast. So if I'm in a Meet session and I present my desktop, so here let me present a window, and I will choose this guy. So if I'm presenting my screen, over on the right hand side of the screen you'll see small tiles for every user, and it will show, so if I go to my participants list, it'll show all the individual people that are connected, but it'll show their video down the right hand side. So if I'm presenting, people can still see my webcam unless I go ahead and go down to the bottom and turn that off. I see the question Stacy has posted about connecting via the phone. So if I have students that don't have internet access, or if I need to join a Meet, I've actually done this on the road myself. So when I'm in my Meet session or in my Google Calendar invitation, I can look at this, but the dial-in number is right down here. So in my Meet session, I have dial in and it has all this information. If I just dial in this 252696 number and then enter the PIN, it will join on the phone the audio portion of the Meet session. Obviously on the phone call, you won't be seeing anything that's shared out, but you can at least participate in any discussion that's happening with the group within the Meet that was set up. All they'll need is that dial-in number and the PIN, and they should be able to connect that way. So I will hang out in this stream for a few more minutes and just keep an eye on the chat. But that's all I have for today's kind of formal presentation. If you feel like any of your colleagues might benefit from this will be archived in our YouTube channel, so they'll be able to watch this later on. They didn't, if they weren't able to join us for the live stream. So feel free to share that later on.